Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Deku Becomes a Pokemon Trainer. In this story, it is simply what you might expect. The story of My Hero Academia, but in world filled with not only quirks, but also Pokemon. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel, after watching this video. Before we get into it though, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. A few meters away from the main gate of UA High, a white pickup truck is shown parking up the sidewalk. In the passenger seat, Izuku Midoriya, wearing his school uniform and backpack, is busy muttering to himself, nervous sweat all over his face. Oh my god. This is it. Am I ready? I don't feel ready. I only got to train for only a few days with full calling. What if I slip up? I can still only use 5%. What if I fail the written exam? No, I studied hard for this, and I have the best grades in my class. But what if they throw in something I don't know? What if, hey, snap out of it. Izuku snapped out of his muttering to face All Might, snapping his finger at his face. Don't worry, kid. Everything's going to be fine. All Might said reassuringly. We worked hard on getting you this far, and I know that you won't let me down. Izuku gave the symbol of peace and appreciate smile. Yeah. You got this, Izuku. Knock him dead, boss. Izuku turned to his partner Pokemon, Eevee and Pikachu, sitting in the back. Since the exam focused more on the examinees' own abilities rather than their Pokemon, Eevee and Pikachu reluctantly agreed to stay with All Might for the duration of the test, and meet up with him at the end. Izuku stared out to see the crowd of teens, all with different uniforms and quirks, teens who had years to master their quirks in contrast to Izuku's measly week, passing through the gates of UA High for the exam. There are so many. Izuku thought. All Might, noticing Izuku's nervous gaze at all the examinees, sighed and asked, You know young Midoriya, you don't have to take the exam. Izuku turned to All Might. Remember Nezu's offer. He said that since he already witnessed you and your abilities that he can let you skip the physical exam. All you need to do is pass the written exam. You don't need to do this if you don't feel ready. Izuku looked down with a pensive look, obviously thinking. Finally he said no. If I'm going to become the greatest hero in the world, I can't just cheat my way out of something I'm nervous over. I won't let all this training that you did for me go to waste. If I'm going to get into UA, I have to give it 100% of my efforts. To go plus ultra. Right. All Might smiled proudly at his successor and said, Now that's the spirit, kid. Just remember your training and follow your instincts. I'll be watching you from afar with Eevee and Pikachu. Now, get out there and make this old man proud. Izuku smiled and got out of the car, saying his byes to Toshinori and the Pokemon. Toshinori watched as Izuku walked towards UA, and couldn't help but find himself smiling proud at his successor. You've come a long way, young Midoriya. We may not have gotten as much training as I would have liked, but you are ready for this. Out of the corner of his eye, he took notice of a certain spiky blonde-haired boy heading straight towards Izuku by the gate. All Might frowned and gripped the wheel, watching with anger and disgust at who he knows has caused his successor nothing but pain. Izuku walked towards the gates of the UA High with nervous excitement. Izuku knew that he already had been here multiple times, training under All Might and Gran Torino, but Izuku couldn't help the fanboyish glee of passing through the gates of the best hero school in the world. Izuku looked around at the number of fellow examiners. Izuku knew that while there were other hero courses across Japan, like UA's rival in the east, Shiketsu High, or even Ketsubustu, but none held a candle to UA All Might, Endeavor, Best Genius. All top 10 pro heroes that graduated from this very school and all now at the top of the nation, some even say the world. But such famous heroes all graduating from the same place, it was definitely the place everyone wanted to go to, even if the approval rates to get in were super low. And even if you aren't looking to become a pro hero, UA's support and business courses are held in as much prestige in their respective careers, that, after graduating, it's guaranteed for you to get any job you want. Even general studies graduates end up reaching high, mostly in Pokemon-related careers like Pokemon researchers or even champions. They don't hold as much high prestige as they used to since quirks came around, but they are a close second. Hell, most people who don't become heroes or sidekicks end up trying to become the Japan Pokemon champion, given the luxuries that the position gives, like being able to operate like a pro hero under emergency situations. But Izuku didn't want that position. He didn't want to be a semi-hero. He wanted to be a full-on pro, just like All Might. And here he was, taking his first steps towards his dream. Deku. Izuku froze at the name, the person's voice filled with the same venom and disgust. Izuku turned around to see Katsuki Bakugo walking towards him. The slightly taller teen had the same permanent scowl on his face, his ruby-red eyes that practically oozed with fiery hatred, now looked cold and sharp. The explosive teen wore a scarf around his neck due to the cold winter weather, but otherwise he dressed in the same school attire as him. Kabakugo. Izuku called out in surprise. Get out of my way before I set you on fire like the loser caterpie that you are. The explosive teen typically yelled. Yeah, good luck out there, Kabakugo. Izuku meekly said. Bakugo passed by Izuku before freezing in his tracks. What did you call me? Huh? Izuku asked, confused. I said, what the hell did you call me? Stupid Deku, Bakugo yelled out, turning his back to face Izuku. Bakugo. Izuku answered, nervously. Your name? Bakugo froze again, his eyes widening in shock before quickly narrowing in fury. Is something wrong? Shut up. Nothing's wrong, shitty Deku. Bakugo yelled out before turning back to head inside. Just don't get in my way. Bakugo walked away, Izuku noticing several examines recognizing the explosive teen and whispering about him. Izuku pondered as to the reason for Bakugo's reaction, but decided to not distract himself. Izuku shook off the instinctual fear that 11 years of bullying ingrained in him. Alright, enough of that. Izuku thought to himself. I'm not the same defenseless kid I once was. I have a quirk now, just like him, and I won't be pushed around by him anymore. All Might is counting on me. Pikachu and Eevee are counting on me. I have to focus on going forward. To become a hero. Izuku took another step before tripping. Or I'll just die. Izuku waited for his face to smash into the ground, but it never came. Izuku opened his eyes to find himself floating in the air. Izuku panicked, flailing himself around to no avail. Until he heard a voice by his side. Hey, are you okay? The voice was definitely feminine, girly with a bubbly giggle. Izuku turned to his side only to freeze. The voice's recipient was a teenage girl, around the same age as him, if not slightly younger. She was slightly shorter than him, with chestnut brown hair that reached towards her shoulders, with similarly colored eyes. She had fair white skin, with a notable roundish pink cheeks. She wore a skirt with black leggings and a brown coat over a pink sweater that hid her slender form. She giggled and moved him till his feet touched solid ground. Izuku noticed briefly that her fingertips had roundish pink pads that reminded him of the pads of some of the more feline or canine-like Pokemon's feet. She clasped her fingers together, and Izuku felt the weightlessness feeling go away. I stopped you with my quirk. The girl said, smiling innocently. I'm sorry that I didn't ask first, but I figured that you would mind me catching you. Izuku blushed at how cute the girl was before stuttering out, oh yeah, I don't mind at all. Thank you for helping me there. Are still okay? The girl asked, her face morphing from a smile to genuine concern. Your face is a little red. Izuku blushed harder. Yeah, I'm fine. I guess I'm just a little nervous. The girl's concerned face returned to a smile and said, yeah, I get that. I'm a little nervous too. After all, who wouldn't be just a little nervous to apply to you, eh? Izuku regained himself a bit and smiled. Yeah, I guess you're right there. The girl suddenly blushed at seeing Izuku smile. Izuku suddenly remembered about the exam and quickly said, oh right. The exam. I'm sorry to take up your time helping me. Izuku gave a quick bow. Thanks again for the save there. Wish you well in there. Izuku sped on his way towards the inside, all the while thinking I talked to another girl. First Serena and now her. Talk about my life doing a complete 180. Meanwhile, the girl watched the green-haired boy speed away with a blushing face. He was kinda cute. A few minutes later, I take back what I said. After completing the written portion of the exam, one that Izuku was confident that he aced. Izuku sat currently in a large dark auditorium, hundreds of fellow examins sitting and waiting for the exam orientation to begin. And Izuku had to sit right next to his lifelong bully. Izuku tried desperately to ignore the explosion quirk teen who was glaring daggers at him. Izuku even caught a glimpse of his hand smoking, either as a menacing threat by Bakugo or as an involuntary show of anger. Why couldn't I sit next to the cute girl? Izuku thought. I would take being nervous over a girl rather than this. Suddenly the giant teleprompter turned on, showing a large golden UA logo over a blue background. Several stage lights turned on and illuminated the stage area where a man stood. The man was large and lanky, long golden blonde stood up with a curl at the end, a pair of white sunglasses with orange lenses over his eyes, a short blonde mustache, and flashed a large smile. He wore what appeared as a black leather jacket with khaki armored-looking shoulder pads and red-plated pads on his elbows with spikes, black leather pants and boots, and even wore black leather, fingerless gloves. Additionally, the top of his jacket had a large collar, a pair of headphones, and a large speaker on his neck. The figure spoke up to the audience, his voice loud and booming, as music started playing. What's up UA candidates, thanks for tuning in to me, your school DJ. He waved his arms out and shouted, let me hear you. The auditorium was filled with awkward silence. Keeping it mellow, huh? The figure continued, trying to sound undeterred, but his arms shook slightly. That's alright, I'll skip straight to the main show. Let's talk how this practical exam is supposed to go down, okay? He struck a pose and yelled out, are you ready? Again, the entire auditorium was silent as the grave. Well, almost everybody. Oh my god. Izuku muttered with fanboy glee. It's the voice hero. Present Mick. So cool. I listen to his radio show every day of the week. It's so cool that all the UA teachers are. Shut up. Bakugo said, deciding to focus his attention towards the hero rather than glaring at the green-haired teen. Like your application said, Present Mick continued. You rocking boys and girls will be out there conducting 10-minute mock battles in super hip urban cities. The screen behind President Mick changed, the screen now showing a few boxes with letters ranging from AG, all connecting to the large "You Are Here" box. Here are your joints, my friends. After I drop the mic here, you'll head to your specified battle centers. Sound good? This time not even Izuku responded to him, as both him and Bakugo checked their cards to see what battle center they would be sent towards. Izuku's card has been placed in battle center. B, while Bakugo's had him in battle center. A, I see. Bakugo said as he looked over at Deku's card. So they're splitting us up so that we can't work with any of our friends. Yeah. Izuku said. You're right. Our examen numbers are one after the other, but we are assigned to different battle centers. I guess this is a way to have us unprepared for what quirks the other applicants are too. Get your eyes off my card. Bakugo hissed quietly. But weren't you the one to point this out? Izuku thought confused. Plus, didn't you just look at my card? Damn it. Bakugo cursed. I was looking forward to crushing you. So petty. Izuku thought. Okay, let's check out your targets. President Mick continued. There are 3 types of fake villains in every battle center. You will earn points based on their level of difficulty, so choose wisely. The screen behind him showed an image of a bunch of buildings surrounded by 3 dark silhouettes of their targets. One looked to be a robot with 1 wheel with 2 blasters for arms. The second silhouette looked like a robotic-looking Skorupi, with a large stinger and pincer-like legs, and the third looked to be a hulking white robot, with what looked like missile launchers on its shoulders. The first one had a 1p marker on it, while the second had 2, and the third had a 3. Your goal in this trial is to use your quirk to raise your score by shredding through these villains like a Machamp going wild on a pile of boulders. The screen showed a model of President Mick, simply defeating the villains and gaining points. But check it. Attacking other examens is a big no-no, so try and keep it heroic out there. You dig? So this exam is basically a show of one's quirk in both its strength and the user's skill and use of it. Izuku thought, analyzing. Plus, it will also have us moving fast and efficiently to find them and take them out fast enough to get to another target. Stronger, more combative quirks will have the advantage here, and you can't just attack every villain you come upon, as you also will want to keep a lookout for targets with more points. However, I feel like this is kind of biased towards combat-centered quirks, rather than quirks that work more on stealth, humans and Pokemon, or, excuse me, sir, but I have a question. A voice called out, snapping Izuku out of his thoughts. Hit me. President Mick called out, pointing his finger towards the crowd, where a spotlight shone upon. Izuku turned to look at the teen in the spotlight, a tall, wide, and sturdy-looking teen, standing straight and rigid like a statue. His hair was a short dark blue, with a small patch shaved near the base of his head, and had a notably pointed jaw. He wore a pair of glasses and also wore a serious expression on his face. On the printout, you listed 4 types of villains, not 3. The large teen said, his voice stern-sounding, almost like he was reprimanding. He pointed towards a piece of paper with the types of villains, and the teen was right in that there were 4 villains listed, his silhouette more large and bulkier than the other 3. With all respect, the blue-haired teen shouted loudly. If this is an error on official UA materials, it is shameful. We are exemplary students. We expect the best out of Japan's most notable school, and a mistake such as this won't do. Additionally, you, with the unkempt hair. The blue-haired teen suddenly shouted, turning and pointing at Izuku, who blinked in surprise. You've been muttering this entire time. Stop that. You can't be bothered to take this seriously, then leave. You are distracting the rest of us. Sorry. Izuku mumbled out, rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment. He blushed at the laughs from the other applicants. He then peered to his right to see Bakugo snicker and smile at Izuku's misfortune. Izuku suddenly forgot the stares and laughter from the examens and clenched his fist, a swell of anger rising inside of him. Before it got any higher, President Mick called out, Okay, take a chill pill everyone. And you, Examen 7111, thanks for calling in your request. President Mick gave Iida a thumbs up before the screen changed to show the 4th villain type, this one with a 0 number over it. The 4th villain type is worth 0 points. That guys is just an obstacle that we will be throwing in your way. There's one of these bad boys in every battle center, like a hurdle that you should mostly avoid. It's not because it can't be beaten, there is just no point. Thank you very much. The blue-haired teen bowed. Please continue. That's actually all I have to say for you today. President Mick said. I'll sign off with a little present. A sample of our school motto. As General Napoleon Bonaparte once said, a true hero is one that overcomes life's misfortunes. You ready to get down? Let's hear a plus ultra. And once again, silence rang through crowd. Geez. Can't catch a break here with these kids, can I? Mick thought. After the presentation from President Mick, Izuku and several examens were told to change into any change of clothes that they brought prepared for the practical test. He remembered as he left to change that Bakugo sent him one last hate-filled glare. Izuku changed into a dark green workout uniform with lightning bolt designs by the side, and a notable Pikachu ear design. He was then led onto a bus with several other examens. Izuku took note that the cute girl from before was in his group, which made him feel happy, wondering if he will be able to thank her one last time, and apologize for running off. Izuku then noticed the blue-haired teen, who changed into a blue and white tracksuit, also in his group, looking at him with what Izuku could identify as either annoyance or disapproval. Izuku did his best to ignore him. Izuku also noticed several other examines, like a blonde-haired kid with large blue eyes and a belt with a large blue gem in the middle, posing all the time, a black-haired teen with shark-like teeth, a large muscle teen with 6 arms, and a pair of floating clothes that Izuku quickly figured out what actually an examine with an invisible quirk and was a girl, exemplified by her notable curves and assets with Izuku blushed hard at. After the bus stopped, they filed out to find themselves in front of 2 large iron doors, with a large concrete wall spanning out towards the whole of the area. Izuku shivered at the sight, his nervous anxiety kicking in again. "Calm down, Izuku," the 9th holder of One for All said. "Remember what you said to All Might. I have to face this challenge head-on and do my best. That's all I can do now. It's time to put 10 months of training with All Might and full Cowling to the test." He looked towards his fellow examines and noticed their more relaxed demeanor. They don't seem as nervous. Could they be that confident? They've had more time to train their quirks than I have, so of course they are more sure of themselves. They're likely going to be faster and stronger than me. But even so, I can't worry about that. I just have to be faster. Just like Gran Torino said, I have to keep my eye on the prize and focus on my objective. Izuku then noticed the brown-haired girl that helped him out. It's that girl from before, Izuku thought. She looks nervous too. Maybe I should go over and help her out, maybe apologize for running off like that. As Izuku took his first steps towards her, he was stopped by a hand on his shoulder. He turned to find the hand's owner to be the very same blue-haired teen. "She looks like she is focusing on the trials ahead," the teen said, his directed gaze obviously referring to the girl. "What are you going to do? Distract her and ruin her chances to succeed?" Izuku flinched at what the teen said. He heard the snickers and laughs from the other examines. The very same swell of anger from before surged once again. The memories of his classmates from Elder, led by Bakugo, and their ridicule of him flashed in his mind. Izuku recomposed himself and stared down blue-haired teen with the equal stare. "Hey man, take it easy," the black-haired, shark-toothed teen said, walking by over to Izuku and the other teen. "I'm sure that wasn't what he wanted to do. You have to stop that," Izuku said. The 2 teens paused and stared at Izuku, who stared down Iida with a glare and a hand gripping Iida's hand on his shoulder. "I was going to try and help her calm down and give her some words of encouragement. I also wanted to thank her for earlier when she helped from falling over. I wasn't going to try and distract her. I can see that you are looking out for a fellow examine, but you can't just assume what someone is going to do without any forward knowledge or evidence. That's not what heroes do. If you were to become a hero with the mindset you have now, then you are going to be a piss-poor hero." The blue-haired teen looked at him with shock, Izuku noticing a hint of embarrassment and guilt in his eyes. Izuku could also hear the whispers of shock from the other examines, along with the black-haired teen crying out, "That's so manly." But Izuku could now care less what others think him. Izuku had enough of being someone's punching bag that they could walk all over. The blue-haired teen looked as if he wished to say something, but Present Mick's voice called out, "Hey down there examines." Izuku and the examines looked above to see that Present Mick was standing over a large concrete structure. "The exam is soon to begin, so get ready." Izuku shook off the teen's hand before walking over to the rest of the group. The blue-haired teen quickly compassed himself and made his way quickly to the others, along with the black-haired teen. Izuku stood at the back of the group, breathing in and out, looking at the doors with concentration as they slowly opened. "This is it," Izuku mentally told himself. "I won't let you down, All Might. I will get in and succeed." As the large doors fully opened to reveal the city, Izuku mentally said to remember, image the egg in the microwave, raising the temperature to the right amount all over my body. One for all. Full cowling. 5%. Izuku sparked in green lightning and jumped over the other examines and sped his way into the city. The examines who previously mocked him now stared at him with shock and surprise, as the green-haired kid rushed into the city. "What are you waiting for?" Present Mick shouted. The examines turned to him. "That kid has the right idea. There are no countdowns in real life. Go go go." The examines quickly realized their mistake and sped off into the city. Back with Izuku, he sped his way through the city, one for all, increasing his leg strength and speed to move faster. Izuku leapt up to the side of the building. "I don't know where the targets are and how many there are, so I have to act quickly to find them. But one for all, I can move quicker than my normal speed, and by jumping through building to building from above, I can gain a better view of my surroundings below." Izuku jumped towards the other building and fixed his body to land on his feet, and angle himself to jump again to the another one. Angle my body to land on the building and quickly jump again to avoid falling or sliding off. Just like Gran Torino. Izuku jumped to the other building and ran up his side before he could feel himself angling downwards and jumping again. And run up the wall's side and vault and angle my body like Pikachu and Cinderace. Izuku quickly spotted a moving object below him. It was large and made of metal, running around with one wheel and had 2 metallic arms. It was a one-pointer. Found one. Izuku leapt downwards towards the one-pointer from the building across it. As the one-pointer looked up to find Izuku heading towards it, the green-haired teen was right upon it and struck it with a glowing, sparking fist. 5% Detroit Smash. Izuku struck it upon its head and easily crushed it, taking off the head and most of the robot's upper body clean off. Izuku landed safely by rolling upon landing and ending with a slide to a halt. And safely absorbed the impact upon landing to all over my body by rolling like EV. Izuku stared back to see the now destroyed robot. That was a one-pointer, so I got 1 point. Not much, but it's a start. I can't stand around for long and bask in what I did, I have to keep moving. Izuku looked ahead and sped off to find more targets. Meanwhile, All Might sat by in a dark room, overlooking a series of green monitors, and watching as surveillance cams kept track of multiple examines. Pikachu and Eevee sat by next to him, watching the footage. Beside the symbol of peace sat multiple of UA's teachers, including Nezu and Recovery Girl. Clearly the examines have no idea how many villains are present. Or their locations. Nezu said. They have limited time, must cover a vast area, and hunt down every last target. Some use information gathering abilities to plan out strategies. A monitor showed the large, multi-armed teen atop a building, his arms splayed out like a Zubid and looking around, while others rely on speed to get ahead of their peers. Another monitor showed the blue-haired teen running at super fast speeds all along the area. Of course, remaining calm under pressure can be a huge advantage. A monitor showed the blonde-haired kids with the Belfira sparkling laser beam out of the gem. As can pure power and compatibility. Another monitor showed Katsuki Bakugo panting, his eyes and wicked smile like a madman's, standing over a pile of destroyed robots, his hands smoking. The most successful of students who rack up the highest scores employ a mixture of all these tactics and attributes. Nezu finished. Sir, you are expositing out of nowhere again. A block-headed man said. Oh, am I? Nezu said, nonchalantly. I didn't notice. More like he loves the sound of his own voice. The individuals thought. Looks like this batch of candidates appear promising. A woman in a provocative dominatrix outfit said. Especially those two. The woman pointed out the two monitors that showed Bakugo and Midoriya. They seemed to show a remarkable amount of power, speed, confidence, and smarts. All Might smiled proudly, watching Midoriya easily destroy another 3-pointer and 2-pointer. He was also worried when Izuku was caught off guard by another robot before the blonde-haired teen blasted it to pieces. Pikachu and Eevee were practically cheering Izuku on as silently as possible. By All Might, why do you have a Pikachu and Eevee sitting next to you? The woman asked. New Pokemon of yours? No, I'm just watching over these two for an examen that I know. All Might said. They're the type to stay at home away from their partner. Kind of possessive. Pikachu responded to that with a smack on Toshinori's head with his tail. Oh? The woman pondered. Showing a little favoritism there, All Might. No? All Might denied. You know that I'm not one of the judges, Midnight. Plus, the boy wouldn't want to cheat his way through the exam. He turned back to see Izuku rushing around, jumping from building to building like Gran Torino. Besides, he is doing fine. Maybe, but there's still plenty of time before it's over. The real test is yet to come. A man in a cowboy hat said as he pushed a big red button. Let's see how they deal with this. Back at Battle Center B, Izuku smashed another 1-pointer, slamming his fist into his head and jamming it into his robotic body. He picked up his motionless arm and tossed it into another 1-pointer, the force enough to cause the two to explode. Ha, that makes 26 so far. Izuku panted, exhausted. Ha, although that was a little excessive. Whenever I use full calling I end up going into a rush that ends up making me go wild. Almost like Bakugo. Izuku heard a noise behind him and saw a 2-pointer about to get the jump on him, before the blue-haired teen rushed in and smashed the robot into a pulp. Now that Izuku had a chance to look at the teen without trying to ignore him, he could see that the teen's calves were large, and had pipes sticking out of them, almost like the exhaust pipes of a car. They were also shooting out air. Those pipes must be connected to some kind of radiator or engine to shoot out that much air gas. Izuku analyzed. They must give that guy super fast speed and enough leg strength to easily smash them. Izuku and the teen looked at each other in what was a split second, but felt like forever. The teen's gaze was serious and stern as before, but he gave a nod towards Izuku. Izuku stared back and nodded. The teen then rushed to another direction to find another robot. Before Izuku could follow his lead, the whole area shook. Suddenly, the area rumbled and something rose. Izuku looked around startled, looking around to see where the rumbling was caused, only to freeze at the sight. Out of the dust cloud that formed came out a giant building-sized robot. The robot was large, larger than the buildings surrounding it. It was obviously a robot with a moss green and black color, but its design and appearance looked based off a Pokemon, none that Izuku had ever seen before. Its arms were large and bulky, its fingers were sharp like claws, it moved on wheels, but the legs appeared were bulky and striped. It had a large tail behind it, with 4 claw-like spikes on the end, and 3 spikes on both sides of its tail. Its form was hunched over, 2 spikes along the sides of its belly, and 3 spikes along the neck of the robot towards its head. its head bumpy and rigid, a large mouth filled with razor-sharp spikes for teeth, and where its eyes would be were glowing red lights. There were also symbol of the Greek letter omega on its legs and arms. Something in Izuku's mind clicked. He remembered his history teacher at Aldair, talking about some of the myths of the world before the age of quirks, a prehistoric times where the world was ancient, new, primal. He remembered how he talked about a fight between two colossal Pokemon of legendary might, fighting for dominance over the land and sea. One was a massive leviathan of the sea, with the Greek letter Alpha, but the behemoth of the land had the letter Omega. Izuku stared in terror as he was face to face with the robotic look-alike of the Groudon, the legendary Pokemon of the Earth. Izuku froze in terror, instantly remembering Present Mick explaining the fourth enemy type, the one that we're told to avoid. That's the zero-pointer, Izuku thought, terrified. Isn't this a little extreme? The zero-pointer let out a robotic roar as it held out its large clawed hand and smashed the area in front of it. Izuku and the other examines raced themselves and shook under the wind force and dust cloud its fists created in one blow. Izuku watched as several of his fellow examines ran from the zero-pointer in terror, but Izuku stood there frozen in terror. From the control room, Pikachu and Eevee stared in complete shock and horror of the robotic Groudon. All Might said, now, here's where things get interesting. A person's true character is revealed when faced with true danger. And what better way to exemplify true danger than a legendary Pokemon, or at least a robotic version of one? The blue-haired teen ran and looked at Izuku, frozen in fear. The teen's eyes held a need to save the frozen green-haired examine, but he turned his head away and ran past him. Izuku shook himself from his stupor and started to run away. This is nuts. I can't waste my time with this monster, it's worth 0 points and it's ginormous. I have to turn back and look for smaller villains. My 26 points aren't enough. Less than 2 minutes remaining. Present Mick's voice shouted out. Shit. 2 minutes. Izuku's eyes widened in horror. I can't lag behind. I won't let All Might down. I won't fail. Ow. Izuku froze as he heard a voice behind him, a familiar voice. He turned back to see who caused it. Behind him, two figures were on the ground, half their bodies covered in fallen debris from the nearby destroyed building. One of them was that he couldn't fully see, but Izuku quickly deduced it was the girl with the invisible quirk. And the other he could see, and she was the girl from before. They were trapped and helpless against the approaching robotic behemoth. I'm sorry that I didn't ask first, but I figured that you would mind me catching you. Before Izuku knew it, their bodies grew closer to him, the wind and dirt blew past, and he ran towards them. He could feel it. It was like last time, with Bakugo and the sludge villain. The same sensation that convinced All Might to choose him. His body moved without thinking. Izuku ran full sprint towards the giant robot, all fear and terror at the robotic clone of the legendary left behind. The only thing driving him was instinct. The instinct to save the two girls in need. As All Might watched, he said, there are no combat points rewarded for taking on that humongous villain. I can't jump towards it fast enough with just full cowling. Izuku thought. It will crush them before I climb it enough. I have to get to its head. Now. But there is opportunity. All Might thought. A chance to shine. Izuku pushed one for all at 100% towards his legs, and in a flash of red and green lightning, Izuku soared high towards the Robo-Groudon's head, the dust around him vanishing in a massive burst of wind. To show what you are truly made of. As the dust cleared, the two girls looked up in shock and amazement. The teachers in the dark control room leaned in their seats. The other examines paused in shock. Izuku sailed towards the giant robot, clenched his right fist, and poured all of one for all he could muster into it, his sleeve tearing apart. So clench your butt cheeks, kid. The Groudon brought its hand down, Izuku sailing in between its claws and towards its head. And yell this from the depths of your heart. And yell this from the depths of your heart. Smash. Izuku's fist clashed onto the head of the robot and, in a display of pure raw power, destroyed it. The head of the Robo-Groudon smashed into paste, beyond recognition. Its entire body was knocked back, explosions blasting out from its entire body as it broke apart at the force. The girls and examines stared in pure utter shock at the display of power from the timid teen. Yes. Show them who you are. All Might said proudly. Nezu and the two Pokemon cheered in pure joy, with Eevee spilling tears from its eyes. Embody what it means to be a hero. Nothing is nobler than self-sacrifice. Izuku stared in awe at what he did, his arm purple and broken, his fist bleeding red. I did it. Izuku thought amaze, as he stared at the mangled and broken remains of the zero-pointer, its red eyes shutting down dead. I saved them. With my own hands, with my own power. My own quirk. This is what it means to be a hero. To save others. 1 minute left. Present Mick announced. Izuku was snapped out of his thoughts, and his mind clicked on where he was right now. Oh right, fuck. AHHH. Izuku yelled in fear and pain as he fell from the sky and started falling towards the ground. I'm so screwed. I'm so screwed. Izuku yelled mentally. I used 100% of one for all again, and I broke my arm. I also broke my legs jumping so high. I can't use full cowling. The invisible girl meanwhile helped pull the brown-haired girl out of the rubble, after she squirmed her way out. Thanks. The brown-haired girl said. The two then looked up to see their savior falling helplessly towards the ground. Oh no. Tor cried out. He's falling. And look. His limbs are broken. He's going to die. The brown-haired girl stared wide-eyed at the guy she helped from before. Oh yeah, I don't mind at all. Thank you for helping me there. She remembered him saying. She gritted her teeth and thought, you saved me. Now, I have to save you. No, he isn't. The girl yelled at the invisible cork girl. I need your help. There's only 1 minute left, and I've only racked up 26 points. Izuku thought as he fell. That's not enough points to pass. And I broke my leg so I can't run or move, and I broke my arm too. Damn it. I'm going to fail. Worse. I'm going to die. Wait. No. There's one chance. A Detroit Smash. As Izuku passed by the roof of the buildings, he thought if I use a Detroit Smash I could make it. I could use the wind force to slow my descent, but it could launch me into the air again, and I wouldn't have another shot. I have to time it just right so that I slow my descent and survive. But even then, I wouldn't be able to fight with both broken arms and legs. But I have to try. Izuku drew back his fist and yelled as he grew closer to the ground. Just as he was about to come close, a sudden force slammed into him from his side. He suddenly slowed down and bumped into the building beside him with a tiny thud. He then slowly landed on the ground and felt a sensation press onto him, but he didn't feel any weight. And release. Izuku heard a voice weakly say. As it said that, Izuku felt a sudden weight press down onto him, as if the invisible force that slammed into him and was on him, suddenly regained its weight. Ugh. Izuku groaned in pain. He could clearly feel the pain in his broken limbs. Izuku lifted his left arm to lift himself up, but his left hand grabbed hold of something soft. What is this? Izuku weakly questioned. He squeezed what he was holding. Squishy. You mind letting go before I break your other arm? A sweet voice suddenly said. Izuku whirled his head around in fright at the sudden noise. Who said that? I did. The girl in front of you. The voice said again. Izuku froze and looked in front of him to see nothing and his hand holding nothing but air, yet it felt solid and squishy. He squeezed again and the voice let out a moan. Izuku paled drastically. He was grabbing the invisible girl's boob. Izuku's face rose to tomato red levels and immediately let go, all the while screaming in horror. Thanks for that. The invisible girl cheerfully said. I really didn't want to break my savior's wrist. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Ugh. Izuku began apologizing before his broken arm flared in pain again. Oh yeah, are you okay? The invisible girl asked, concerned over the teen's broken arms. Yeah, I used too much of my quirk, and it broke my arm. Izuku said. What happened? Oh well, after you saved us, I got out and helped the girl there out of the rubble. The invisible girl said. Then we saw you fall and the girl came up with a plan to save you. She used her quirk to make both me and that piece of the robot you destroyed weightless, and then tossed me over at the right time catch you. Izuku turned to look at the brown-haired girl who helped save him, barfing rainbows. Izuku sighed in relief. She looks a little out of it, but at least she's okay. That strategy she used was very smart. Even using the piece of the robot to weight robot. The exam is still going. I have to get more points to make him proud. And that's a wrap. President Mick announced. Time's up. A series of horns blew, signaling the end of the exam. Izuku froze, eyes wide, before groaning and laying his head down by the ground. So, it's over. And with the points I got, did I fail? Hey. The invisible girl said, making Izuku look to her putting on a pair of track clothes almost out of nowhere. Wait, if her quirk only turns her body invisible and not a clothes, that means that when she landed on me, and when I grabbed her by accident, she was. Izuku almost went full nuclear meltdown before the girl spoke again. Hey, why did you do it? She asked. Huh? Izuku asked. Why did you do it? The invisible girl asked again. Why did you do it, risking yourself to save us? Even if it meant that you would miss out on some more points. Why did you come back for us? Izuku was silent, asking himself that question, but he already knew the answer. Because it's what heroes do. Saving others at the expense of themselves. I couldn't just leave two cute girls to die at the hands of a giant robot when I could save them. It wouldn't be right. Tor let out a tiny squeak. It sounded almost like a kitten, and while Izuku couldn't see her face's reaction, he knew she tensed up by her shoulders. What's wrong? Nothing. Nothing at all. The girl waved her arms around, her voice an octave higher. But, thank you for saving us. Izuku smiled. You know, the invisible girl said. Looking at you closely, you are kinda cute. Izuku blushed super hard, before rolling his eyes and passing out. As the invisible girl shrieked and tried shaking the boy awake, the other examiners came closer, all the while talking about Izuku. Did you see that punch that guy threw? That was some monster power. Yeah, but I thought his quirk was that green lightning that sparked off of him. It looked like some enhancement type quirk that made him run faster. I saw him earlier jumping from building to building and running super fast, and then smash one of those robots to pieces, but it wasn't as strong as that last punch. Yeah, and would you look at his arm and his legs? They're totally broken. I've never heard of a quirk that breaks your arms after using it. Maybe it's some kind of power boosting quirk that breaks his limbs after using it too much, or when he uses too much power. Maybe. But why break his limbs over a robot with no points? Maybe he was trying to show off. Well, joke's on him for that. It totally messed him up. True. But you got to admit that it was a really impressive move. While the examines talked, the blue-haired teen looked at the passed-out Izuku, and thought they are all missing the point. Don't they see what he did? He looked over at the invisible girl trying to wake the teen up and the brown-haired girl, on top of a robot part just now recovering. He risked everything. Just to save these two. He looked back at the passed-out Izuku. He must have known what little time was left, how many points he needed to pass, and he was putting his life on the line, but, despite all that, he didn't hesitate to jump. He remembered how when he ran, he hesitated and left him behind. The teen clenched his fist in anger. If this hadn't been an exam, then of course I would have done the same thing. The teen jerked his head up in a spark of revelation. Wait, the exam. The judges. They saw that. Could there have been other parameters to the exam that I didn't realize? Before he could think any further, Recovery Girl suddenly appeared and walked over to Izuku, rewarding the other examines gummy bears as she passed by. As she reached him and inspected his broken unconscious form, she mentally sighed. Even though you found a new way to use your quirk safely, you still broke your body. You even broke your legs, along with your arm. Oh boy, no wonder Toshinori chose this boy, both stubbornly putting themselves through hell just to save others. It's both their greatest strength and their greatest flaw. Recovery Girl then healed him up, much to the initial horror of the other examines. Later, after the exam was over, Izuku woke up in Recovery Girl's office. She berated him over breaking his body again, especially after figuring out full cowling, as a way to use one for all safely. He was then bombarded by the hugs and anger of an upset Eevee and Pikachu, which hurt Izuku to see almost as bad as thoughts over the exam. Recovery Girl left him go home, telling him that All Might was busy and couldn't drive him home, so he left walking back home. For the next few days, Izuku was silent, but internally he was mess. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, he could barely do more than stare off into space and work his muscles with a finger grip. Eevee and Pikachu tried to snap him out of it, but their attempts only led to minimal success. Pikachu's most daring attempt was pulling out the wrestler costume while belly flopping into a pile of ketchup sauce. It made Izuku chuckle a little, even if they had to clean up the mess afterwards. Izuku barely left his room, mulling over the exams, whether he passed or failed. Until he got a call from a recently made friend who wished to meet up for a snack, to talk over how things went. Izuku reluctantly agreed. So here he was, at a bench by the beach, staring at a takoyaki with a smile and a blank stare. Izu. A female's voice called out. Izuku didn't pay attention, still spacing out. The girl sighed before "Okay, Pipla, do your thing," said. Pipla chirped happily as it fired a weak bubble beam onto Izuku's face. Wah! What happened? Izuku, snapped out of his spacing, asked. You were staring off into space again, Izu. That or you suddenly fell in love with your takoyaki. Oh, sorry Serena. Serena sat beside Deku, wearing a black skirt with black leggings, a black jacket over a red blouse and a red hat with sunglasses on her head, her strawberry blonde hair with blue wavy highlights flowing in the cool breeze. Ever since meeting on the beach, the two had become close. Whenever Izuku wasn't at school or training with All Might, he was hanging out with Serena, always hanging out, either at the beach they met in or just walking around talking. Izuku learned that Serena's mother was originally a former Rhyhorn racer from France, while her father was Japanese detective, how she likes making poffins, and, if Pikachu and Eevee's cries of ecstasy are any indication, she was incredibly good at it, and how she has a thing for both fashion and Pokemon contests and performances. Izuku asked her why she wanted to be a hero as she had so many likes that don't seem to connect with being a hero. She answered him, I actually wanted to be a Pokemon performer or coordinator. Not like there's much a difference between the two. I mean in both have you and your Pokemon doing some kind of dance or show of their moves. Although, I also like Pokemon performances more because of you dancing with your Pokemon, and the fun and hard work those other performers do. I wanted to do that too. But then one day my dad came home from work one day all sad and distraught. I asked what the matter was, and he said that it was because he had to watch several people die in an accident. How he was so close to saving them, but in the end he failed. He always blames himself for what happened. Then I heard him say to my mother how there were no heroes there. No heroes to save the day or help the police. He often wonders what would have happened if they were there. And so then on, I wanted to be a hero, and swore to myself that I wasn't ever going to be too busy to save others, so that those horrible tragedies don't ever happen again, and so that I won't have my dad or others who survive to feel guilty or sad. Izuku always stared at Serena in awe, like she was the most fascinating person in the world to him. He would always feel inspired by what her reasons for being a hero. In fact, Izuku then had the guts to tell her about how he was quirkless, and instead of ridiculing him, she supported his dream of being a hero, even without a quirk. Izuku knew then that Serena was the best friend that he ever had. Izuku chuckled at the memory of him telling her that his quirk manifested, and showed her full cowling after he unlocked it. He could remember what Izuku could see his awe and wonder. Izu. Don't go spacing out again. Serena scolded him. I'm sure Piplup is eager to spray you down again. Sorry. Izuku apologized. I was just thinking about how we became such fast friends. It feels like forever since we've been friends, yet it's only been a month or two. So cheesy. Serena laughed, while trying to hide her blush. Hey, cheesy is good. Izuku yelled playfully. After Serena calmed down, she asked, so, you want to quit the flattery and tell me the real reason why you have been staring off into space? Izuku's mood went down and his smile dropped. I'm just thinking about the exam. UAs? Serena questioned, her interest perked. Izuku nodded. By my own estimates, I think I did well of the written test, but I only scored 26 points on the practical. I know that it's a low score compared to the other examens, and that makes me feel so anxious, whether I failed or not. I understand, Izu. Serena said. But you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. UA is a hard school to get into, but even if you don't get in, there are other hero schools that you go to, like Shiketsu or Ketsubutsu. Izuku still looked down. But you don't care about them because they weren't where All Might went, huh? Izuku merely nodded. Another thing that had Izuku feeling down and even more worried was that Izuku hadn't been able to get in contact with All Might since the exam. Izuku felt painful guilt at the thought that he failed the exam, and so let All Might down. At times Izuku felt like he should have taken that easy way out, but even so, he knew that if he did, that All Might would be slightly disappointed, and so would Izuku being himself. Hey, Serena said as she laid her hand on top of Izuku's, gaining the boy's attention. No matter what happens, Izuku, you did the right thing. You put others' well-being before yourself. You helped save those girls from a giant robot when everyone else was running scared. You're a better hero than any of those idiots could ever be, and, if UA chose scared, demeaning cocky brats over you, then they don't deserve to be the best hero school in Japan. Because you are already a hero. To those girls and to me. To you? Izuku said, tears gathering in the corners of his eyes. How? It was back when we first met. Serena said. You told me how my quirk was amazing, how it was special when every other kid told me that it was weak and nothing. You helped me improve my quirk, and you helped me feel confident about myself with every talk or hangout we have. You, a random kid, did more to help me see the good in myself than anybody else in my life. As far as I'm concerned, you are my hero. Izuku didn't know what to say, so he simply hugged his friend, his best friend. Serena hugged him back, letting him cry on his shoulders, all the while blushing and smiling softly. A few days later, Izuku was doing much better ever since his talk with Serena. He would finally smile and spend actual time with Eevee, Pikachu, and his mother. He also worked on training himself more, doing the same exercises that All Might instructed him since 10 months ago. Izuku figured that even if he didn't get into UA, then he would convince his mom to let him try out for another hero school, probably Shiketsu. He still hadn't gotten in touch with All Might, and was getting more worried with every passing day, but held his head high and remembered what Serena told him, fueling his drive more. If I did fail, I'm really sorry, All Might. If I let you down. But I won't give up. I'll keep trying. For not just your sake or one for all, but for Serena. For Eevee and Pikachu. And for myself. I'll keep trying. Suddenly though, his mother burst into the living room. Izuku, they came. They came. Look. It's your test results. From UA. Indeed, what his mother held in her hand was an envelope, the red stamp complete with UA's logo. Izuku took the envelope and silently brought it to his room, only bringing Eevee and Pikachu, while his mother waited outside, Mr. Mime nervously miming Izuku Midoriya. Izuku stared at the envelope at his desk in a blank stare. Should I even open it? He thought. What if it's bad news? What if it's to tell me that I failed? You won't know unless you open it. Pikachu said. Oh right. Izuku mentally said. Or a connection. I'm just so nervous. Well, remember before entrance exam. Eevee pointed out. You were nervous then too, but what did you do? Took a leap of faith. Izuku said. After staring at the envelope for a few more seconds, Izuku finally had enough and ripped the envelope open, revealing a small disc that fell onto the desk. Izuku was momentarily confused before the disc shone off a light and produced a holographic video. Bria. I am here as a projection. Wah. Wah. Izuku and the two Pokemon yelled out scared. I swear I'm going to zap the old man's heart out. Pikachu said. If that isn't also missing in that walking skeleton. Wait, All Might, Izuku cried out. But this is from UA, isn't it? Should we remind him that this is a video? Eevee quietly asked. Nah. Pikachu said also quietly. Let's see how long until he figures it out. I know it's been a while, and I truly apologize for the absence, All Might said. But with great power comes with a great amount of paperwork. Pretty sure that's not how that phrase goes, but alright. Pikachu said. Once again, my apologies, my young man. All Might apologized. The truth is that I didn't come to this city just fight villains. You are looking at the new UA faculty member. Izuku gasped and asked, you are seriously working at UA? Now? Eevee asked the yellow rodent. Nah, wait for it. Pikachu insisted, secretly cracking up at Izuku's cluelessness. Huh? All Might asked as he looked over to someone outside the camera area, the only thing shown being a hand waving its finger in a circle. Yeah, what's the matter? Who's showboating? Oh sorry, I'll wrap it up, but I have to show him something first. Wait, I have to do how many of these things? All Might asked with a more nervous smile on his face, while the finger gave the okay sign with his hand. Ugh. So moving on. Ahem. Izuku deadpanned at his mentor, while Pikachu and Eevee were rolling around the floor, laughing their furry asses off. Izuku ignored the two and braced himself for the news. You passed the written test with flying colors, as I would expect. All Might continued. However, in the practical part of the exam you scored over 26 combat points, a score that isn't a passing grade. Sorry. Izuku felt his world sinking. So that's it, huh? I was right. I failed. I'm sorry, All Might. You were right, Bakugo. I am a failure. I really can't do anything right. I'm sorry, Serena. Fortunately, there were other factors. Izuku froze and looked up in stunned silence. The two Pokemon were just about to reach and comfort Izuku, before they too froze in anticipation. But before we get to that, I have another surprise. All Might said, a remote now in hand. Here, look. A short clip for your viewing pleasure. All Might pressed a button in the screen to his right, changed to show a video recording of the brown-haired girl and the invisible girl, the two in middle school uniforms. Do you have a sec? The brown-haired girl in the video asked. We're sorry to interrupt. It's that nice girl from before. Izuku said. And the invisible girl too. They showed up after the exam to talk about you, young man. All Might informed. What does she have to say? All Might dramatically asked. You will have to stay tuned to find out. Why is he talking like this to some reality show or anime? Eevee said, deadpanning at All Might's dramatic antics. Just go with it. I've given up trying. Pikachu said. You know that boy with all that messy hair and all the freckles? The brown-haired girl said. She means me. Izuku whispered out. It's hard to describe his face. He's really plain looking. Doesn't really stand out too much. She continued saying. Izuku felt a metaphorical and comical anvil with the words plain hit him upside the head. Hey, don't be so mean. The invisible girl said. I thought he was kind of cute. Izuku immediately went so red that he would be easily mistaken for a tomato. We were wondering if it were possible for us to give him some of ours points that we earned in the exam. The brown-haired girl said, Izuku gaping at her with wide eyes. Yeah. The invisible girl said. I heard him mumbling that he had to get more points to make someone proud, and I thought that it was so unfair that he didn't because he was too busy saving us. He'd never be able to hang with the best of the best. Izuku heard Bakugo's insult ring in his head. He would have gotten a better score if he hadn't stopped to help us. The brown-haired girl jumped in. There was absolutely no reason for you to put yourself in danger like that. This time Izuku heard death arms in his head as he clenched his fists. He saved us. And we have to make it up to him. The invisible girl shouted. Izuku stood up from his chair, watching the screen with wide, shaky eyes. Please, sir. The brown-haired girl shouted. Can't you just give him our points? All Might paused the video and said, You have a court now, that's right. But it's your actions that inspire others. Izuku looked downward, letting out a small smile, for once proud of himself. And that's why I am here. For you see, the practical exam was not graded on combat alone. Izuku looked back at the video with shocked surprise. The video continued with President Mig patting the girls' heads while saying, Thanks for coming up to the station with your request. But there's no reason for you gals to give him your points. The kid's charting well on his own. The video paused again for All Might. How can a hero course reject someone who is committed to saving others? No matter the consequences to himself, after all, that is what makes a hero. And that's what my alma mater is all about. Training those who would risk their lives for the greater good. So we have rescue points. The panel of judges watches, and they award points for heroic acts beyond just fighting villains. Izuku gasped in shock at what he was shown. Izuku Midoriya. 75 rescue points. First place. Izuku gaped in complete shock. Eevee and Pikachu joined their partner in similar reactions. And Ichako Araka. 41 rescue points. Fourth place. And Toriu Higakure. 41 rescue points. 14th place. You all passed the exam. Izuku's eyes couldn't possibly widen any further. I helped them pass. I passed, tears streamed down his cheeks. Pikachu and Eevee too teared up. All Might turned to him, and held out his hand with a large proud smile. Welcome Izuku. Izuku teared up more, hearing All Might say his name with what he knew was pride. You've made it. This is your Hero Academia. Izuku tears came in like waterfalls. Thanks, Eevee. Pipakapi, his two Pokemon, cheered as they hugged their partner. I've done it. Izuku looked to his partners with a watery smile. We've done it. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.